This past weekend. So we were in Buffalo, and I was actually at my sister's house. And I remember I was just, thinking about this experience I had, and I was just sitting on her couch. She got a new puppy. We were just kind of sitting there relaxing, and I realized in that moment this morning that I had actually taken like a deep breath and like exhaled and relaxed for a second. And I hadn't realized that I had been holding my breath for a really long time. I don't know if anyone is there where you feel like you're holding your breath, right? And there's that phrase, literally where you say like, I'm not holding my breath, that kind of thing. And it actually means, if you look at the I don't know if it's like a dictionary definition for a phrase, but whatever that is, it actually means to wait or to delay until something special happens. And I didn't realize how much I connected with this phrase, that I had been holding on to my breath, waiting for things to happen in life. So I was, I've been waiting for, a word from the Lord about, direction for a career, and waiting for, the yes or the no to buy a house, or, all these different things that I had been in this waiting room for, and holding my breath, like holding on, and not being able to relax or just enjoy where I'm at because I'm under tension at all times. I don't know if anyone is there. But you just feel like you're holding on so tight, like you're gripping and you can't relax. And so this morning, the Lord was just showing me what happened on Sunday at my sister's house was just this relaxing, like the letting go of your shoulders and just breathing for the first time. And so I'm reflecting on that, and the Lord brought me to Mark 5, and it's specifically the story. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because that would be forever. So it's Mark 5, and it starts at verse 21, and it's actually the story, two different stories of people holding their breath. And so the first one was a gentleman, the father. I'm not going to even try to say his name, okay? So you have the father, and he approaches Jesus, and he asks him to come and heal his daughter. And so actually in verse 23, it says, this is the father, he pleaded earnestly with him, with Jesus, my little daughter is dying. Please come and put your hands on her so that she will be healed and live. So Jesus went with him. And then we go into the next story. So he interrupts this and he says, a large crowd followed and pressed around him, and a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all she had, yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. It goes on. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak, because she thought, if I just touch his clothes, I will be healed. Immediately, her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering. And so I was brought to this verse, and we see these two different stories. We actually see one story, and it's interrupted by another.
So there's first the father. Okay, let's address him. He's in a huge waiting room, but it's not just holding his breath for good. He's holding his breath for bad. He doesn't know the outcome. It's quite uncertain. He doesn't know if his daughter will live or die, so he's trying to prepare himself for both outcomes. I don't know if anyone is in that place where you don't know what to expect. You're waiting for that promotion and you don't know if it's going to be good or bad, if it's in your favor or it won't be, or if you're waiting to hear about a house that you put an offer in, for. You're waiting if you see if you get it or if you don't, or you're waiting for that man to come back and you don't know if he's going to come back or if it's just gone, And so he's in this place of waiting for both good and bad. But then we have the woman, and the woman has been waiting, holding her breath for 12 years. 12 years. And the thing I love about both of these characters, about both of these individuals, is that they're not passively waiting. They're actively waiting. And so the Lord started speaking to me this morning in my devotions about the two places that we can be, and they're very, very different. The one is holding our breath, which is a passive place, right? It's a place where we get tense and we freeze. We're almost like paralyzed and our life can't move on until we know the outcome or we're there, right? So we feel like, we'll say things like, well, I can't have joy until I'm in that job, or, our finances are locked until I get that promotion, or I just won't be happy. I won't be, a woman until I'm a wife, And so we put all these stipulations and hold up our lives and living because we're waiting for that thing, that special thing to happen. I don't know if anyone is there. But the second place we can be, and this is where I think these characters are, these individuals, is holding on to hope, which is very active. Hope in a biblical sense is this anticipation, it's expectation for something good to happen by the Lord. And it isn't a passive place. It's actually this active waiting. It's saying, I'm preparing for, and actually the definition of anticipation, the first phrase you'll see is being prepared for. And so we are in this place of holding on to hope, which is holding on to preparing ourselves and our lives for blank to happen. So we're in this place of developing our character while we're waiting for that job. We're developing our lives as godly women before we become a wife. Right? The list could go on. Insert whatever you're experiencing right now. For me, it's, okay, am I developing my character? Are we developing our finances and our budgets, before we have a house, before we have the career, before, blank. And so I just think that it's so cool that these individuals, the father and the woman, are not passively waiting for things to happen. The father is pursuing Jesus. He's coming after him, and he's in his uncertainty, in his doubt to know, will my daughter live or will she die? I'm going to go to Jesus anyways, and I'm going to trust him with the outcome to believe for life, to believe for something more. And that's what this woman did. It says that she literally gave up everything she had. She gave up everything she had to pursue health and wellness in her body. And she'd still, after 12 years, not experienced what she was pressing on for. And so I see this active pursuit of the things that they want. They're not just standing on the sidelines, just being, hopeless people. They're not just holding their breath for something so clenched, so tight that they're paralyzed to do anything. They're getting prepared for what is to come. And the Lord he spoke this specific phrase. He actually said about these two places. He said one gives life, one situation gives life, and one takes it away. One actually sucks it away. And you could probably determine which one is which. That when we hold on to our breath, it's actually sucking the life out of us. What a powerful thing to think about, right? But if we're holding on to hope, that actually gives us life, that breathes life into our lungs, where we're partnering with God and saying, yeah, I'm actually anticipating that there's going to be great things happening, and I'm okay in the process. I'm going to embrace every part of the journey, ups and downs and everything in between in this waiting room. I'm going to try to find joy. And so I thought about this verse after he started speaking about Mark 5. And he went to Proverbs 13:12. And I love this verse. I feel often that it's my life verse or something in a strange way. But it said, hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled, or the King James actually says, when desire cometh, which I like, it's kind of fancy. But a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. And if you look at that word deferred, so it's hope deferred. So insert your hope. What are you hoping for? Are you hoping for the job? Are you hoping for the relationship, for the marriage? Are you hoping for a child to come back? One that's been lost or wandered away from the Lord or whatever it is. Insert your hope. And that word deferred, what does that mean? And the actual definition, it means to draw out, to drag along, to be postponed, to continue. But there's 3 words that I love and have so much power in them that define this word deferred. And the first one is to sow. So in this season, we are called to sow. And that's totally biblical. We see it all over the place, right? That we are called to sow into the things of the future. We're called to sow character. We're called to sow seeds of relationships or, whatever that looks like. There's so many examples that we could go through, but we are called to sow in this season, not just to sit back, and to hope that a harvest will come. But in that deferred place, in that postponed season, we are made to sow into the things that we have not yet to see. The second thing is that there's a scattering. So there's 2 different ways we can think about this that are biblical. And the first one is that we are scattered, okay? And that is Deuteronomy 28. And it actually says that the Lord's people, God's people, are scattered throughout the earth. And we see this again in Matthew 28, where there's the Great Commission, where we're literally scattered to spread the gospel. We're scattered to meet people that are untouched by the word and the presence of God. And so we have that scattering where we're made to scatter our lives. We're made to press forward into places that we haven't been yet. That kind of mentality. But the other part of that I actually never considered before is that the enemy is scattered. And you see this in Psalm 144 and Psalm 68. And it actually says that the enemy is scattered before us. And I think that's another key to this waiting period, because we always think about, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to be doing in this season? Or what is God doing? But another part of that is the Lord's protection to scatter the opposition before us. And if we go on ahead of ourselves too soon, then we actually may be entering into something that isn't yet prepared from an enemy standpoint. Like there's always that phrase like going behind enemy lines and that kind of thing. And I do think that there's this protection when we move forward at the rate that God is going. He's scattering our enemies before us, so we actually have a clear and protected path to move forward. The third word, so we have sowing, scattering, and then the third one is stretching out. And this is Isaiah 54, and I love what this verse says. I'll actually read it for you because it's just so cool. It's 54:2, and it said, "Enlarge the place of your tent, stretch your tent curtains wide, do not hold back, lengthen your cords, strengthen your stakes, for you will spread out to the right and to the left, your descendants will dispossess nations and settle in their desolate cities." So another thing that we're called to do is to stretch out. And this is a total preparing thing to do, right? You see in this verse that it's literally saying, like, enlarging your tent. Like, get prepared for God to bless you. Get prepared for more of God's presence, for more of His blessings, for more of everything that He has for you. And that happens in our jobs. It happens in our lives. I think a lot of us would probably define some of our seasons right now as that stretching. We feel stretched. We feel maxed out. We feel like we're just exhausted because we're going in all different directions and our curtains are getting opened. And, don't take that literally. It's just, our curtains are getting open. We're lengthening our cords. We're strengthening our stakes. Like we're getting prepared. Our foundation of who we are is in this season of waiting because we're actually being prepared to be blessed with something more, whether it's a promotion, whether it's another family member, if it's, a new ministry, whatever that looks like for you. Maybe you're in the season of stretching, and that's a really good thing. And I want to just touch on this real quick. So back to Proverbs 13:12, right? So hope deferred makes the heart sick. And this sick place actually is a grieving place. It's a wounded place. It's feeling pain or becoming weak. And this directly ties to that phrase, holding our breath. Because if you hold your breath too long, you'll get sick. If you hold your breath too long, you're going to feel weak, you're going to get dizzy. I've never held my breath that long to know what the actual effects are, but if you've ever done that, if you've ever, been in a dive and you're underwater and you get to that place where your throat starts burning and you feel like you're kind of getting lightheaded, that is a physical reaction to holding our breath, but I believe that goes in our emotions, it goes into our spiritual lives and our psychological state, and it really starts to make us weak. And so I think that's really, it was really comforting for me to know that what I was feeling was legitimate. It's legitimate to feel these things, and I want to encourage you with that if you're holding on to your breath, waiting for things to happen, whether it's good or bad, that is a reality. But the Lord doesn't want us to be in that place of holding our breath so tight we're just paralyzed into any kind of action. He actually wants us to press into Him. And so that's when I started praying really about, okay, Lord, so what's the answer? Because we're all waiting, right? So we're all waiting for any of the things I've mentioned. We may be waiting for bad things too. So if you're in the holiday season and you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop kind of deal, you're waiting for your families to come together and they don't get along, and so you're waiting for the big explosion, or you're waiting for that moment when you feel so lonely because you have no significant other, or, there's so many scenarios that are not good that we're waiting for, and we're saying, oh man, that's going to happen this year, and when it does, I'm going to be so disappointed, and I'm going to be so hurt, and the list goes on and on and on. And so what is the solution for that? And for me, it's simple, but difficult to press into Jesus. That's really the answer. In all these situations, it's so cool because the Lord touched and healed both the daughter and the woman. He healed them through His touch, through His presence. And so I think that in this, especially in this holiday season, but if you're in the waiting season, the key is to cultivate nearness to Jesus. Because when we do that, a single touch from Him, a single word or comforting scripture or whatever it is can literally change the trajectory of our hearts and help us just to realize, number one, that we're holding our breath, and then just to help us let it go and to relax in His presence and know that He's got it. And I think when we have those moments with Him, we press into Him, He gives us the words that we need to prepare for the season that is coming, to prepare for whatever blessing He has coming up, or for the next relationship that's going to happen in your life, or the next baby, or the house, or whatever that looks like, or even the bad stuff. I think that just speaking into people's lives who are expecting the worst this holiday season, we need to be so close with the Lord because we need wisdom. Because you need to prepare your heart to know, okay, when that situation happens with that family member, I'm going to do X. So if they start, lashing out at me, or if I feel tension here, I'm going to do this in a healthy way. I'm going to back off. I'm going to step out of the house. I'm going to leave. I'm going to say this such and such thing, that this is my boundary, and start processing that, because we have to have a game plan. If you don't have a plan, you're going to fail. And so we have to even cultivate that closeness with the Lord to say, okay, Lord, if this happens, what do you want me to do? What scriptures can you point to? What advice can you give me? What wise counsel can you give to my heart to walk out a healthy waiting season, to walk out a healthy holiday season, and to enjoy every moment of it? I think that's so practical that if we did that, we could enjoy life a lot more. And that's what I found this morning, was just drawing into the Lord and just pressing into His presence. I was able to realign myself and get that soul need attached to the Lord again, and to say, okay, I have these hopes that are deferred right now, and my heart's a little bit sick about it, but I have to hold on to hope and not hold my breath for these things and stop my life because these X things have not happened yet. Does that make sense? So I just want to leave you with this thought. Scripture says that Christ in you is the hope of glory. So that means that hope is always within you. It means that He will never delay in meeting your needs. He'll never delay in meeting us exactly where we're at. In one story in Mark 5, Jesus literally had it interrupted to meet someone else's need. And He'll interrupt our lives when it's the time to bring on that next season, that thing that we're waiting for. And sometimes, the waiting is the purpose, and it's not so much the arriving. And so if we are fixed on sowing into our lives that we have right now, scattering whatever that may look like, or stretching out our tents and getting prepared for the blessings of the Lord, I think that we'll have a very productive and a very blessed waiting season. So I hope that this blessed you wherever you may be at. I know it certainly blessed me where I am. And I would encourage you, if you have a friend, if you have a family member, if there's someone you know that's going through this waiting season, share it with them. You know, I hope it will encourage them too, or point them to these verses. And yeah, I would love to hear your comments. So if you want to comment on the video, I would love to hear where you're at, how we can be praying for you, and if this was a blessing to your life. So I hope you have a great night, happy Friday, and have a great weekend. Love you guys. Bye.